I found the sheriff dead on the cafe floor with the murder weapon in my hands. In a town where everyone knows your name, it took only one moment for the entire place to believe I was a killer. But the truth was far darker, because the real murderer was someone the whole town trusted. The first thing I noticed that night was the smell of pine. Cold October air drifted through Maple Hollow, the small American town where nothing exciting ever happened. The streets were quiet, porch lights glowed softly, and the forest surrounding the town whispered in the wind. My name is Clara Bennett, and until 3 days ago, the worst crime I'd ever seen here was someone stealing pumpkins during the fall festival. But that night changed everything. It started with a phone call at 11:43 p.m. My kitchen clock ticked loudly as my phone rang. No one in Maple Hollow called that late unless something was wrong. When I answered, I heard my best friend Emma Carter's voice. "Clara, I need you to come to the cafe." Emma owned the town's only cafe, Carter's Corner. Usually her voice was cheerful, but tonight she sounded terrified. "What happened?" I asked. There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "I think someone's dead." 10 minutes later, I was driving down Maple Street through a thin layer of fog rolling out of the forest. The town looked peaceful like always, but something about the silence felt wrong. Emma's cafe lights were still on, and the neon "open" sign flickered in the window. The front door was slightly open. My stomach tightened as I stepped inside. "Emma?" I called. The cafe smelled like burnt coffee and cinnamon rolls. Chairs were half stacked on tables as if she had been closing for the night. Then I heard a soft sob coming from the back office. I rushed toward the door and pushed it open. Emma was sitting on the floor, shaking, and lying beside the desk was Sheriff Daniel Harper, dead. A knife was buried in his chest. For a moment, my brain refused to accept what I was seeing. Sheriff Harper had been Maple Hollow's sheriff for 20 years. Everyone trusted him. Emma grabbed my arm with trembling hands. "Clara, I didn't do this." "I know," I said quickly, though I barely understood the situation myself. "Why was he here?" I asked. Emma looked down. "He said he needed to talk about something important." "About what?" I don't know," she whispered. "I went to lock the front door, and when I came back, he was already like this." Trying to help, I knelt beside the sheriff and touched the knife. Without thinking, I pulled it out. Blood immediately spread across my hands. That's when a voice came from the doorway. "Well, this is interesting." Emma and I turned around. Deputy Mark Collins stood there, staring directly at me. His eyes moved slowly from the knife in my hands to the sheriff's body on the floor. Suddenly, I realized how the scene looked, and it looked terrible. Within minutes, police lights flashed outside the cafe. Yellow tape surrounded the building, and half the town gathered outside, whispering. Inside the sheriff's office, I sat at a wooden table while Deputy Collins questioned me. "You arrived and the victim was already dead?" he asked. "Yes. And yet your fingerprints are on the knife." "I panicked," I said. "I thought maybe he was still alive." Collins watched me carefully. "You removed the murder weapon," he said slowly. I didn't answer. Across the room, Emma sat with another officer. She looked pale and wouldn't look at me. 2 hours later, Collins finally allowed me to leave. But before I walked out the door, he stopped me. "You should stay in town, Clara." "I live here," I said. "That's good," he replied coldly, "because right now, you're our main suspect." The next morning, the entire town seemed to be staring at me. Whispers followed me everywhere, at the grocery store, at the gas station, even outside my house. In Maple Hollow, rumors spread faster than wildfire. But something about the situation bothered me. Sheriff Harper visiting Emma's cafe that late didn't make sense, and Deputy Collins had arrived far too quickly. It felt like pieces of a puzzle that didn't fit. So instead of hiding, I started asking questions. My first stop was the sheriff's office. I knew the building well, and with Harper dead, the place felt strangely quiet. Most officers were busy investigating the case. While pretending to look for paperwork, I quietly slipped into Harper's office. His desk drawers were messy, filled with files and notes. Then I found something strange, a confidential investigation folder. Inside were photos and documents about illegal land deals near the forest outside town. Several properties had been secretly sold over the past year. One name appeared again and again: Mark Collins. My heart started racing. Why would the deputy sheriff be connected to illegal land deals? Then I noticed something else in the folder, a handwritten note from Sheriff Harper. "Meeting Emma Carter tonight. She has information." Suddenly, everything made sense. Harper had come to Emma's cafe to talk about the investigation, but someone must have found out, and that someone didn't want the truth to come out. A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned slowly. Deputy Collins stood in the doorway. "You shouldn't be here, Clara," he said calmly. My hands tightened around the folder. "Sheriff Harper was investigating you," I said. Collins sighed, almost like he was tired. He was getting too curious. "You murdered him." His expression didn't change. I prefer the term necessary action. Fear ran through my body, but I forced myself to stay calm. "You framed me." "You made it easy," he said with a small smile. Pulling the knife out was a nice touch. My heart pounded. "Why the land deals?" Collins stepped inside the room. "Developers want the forest outside town. It's worth millions. Harper planned to expose everything. So you murdered him. And now the town believes you did it." He reached for his gun. "That's the problem with small towns, Clara. Once people decide you're guilty, they never question it." But Collins made one mistake. He talked too much. Because while he was explaining everything, my phone was recording in my pocket. I slowly stepped backwards. "You're not getting away with this." Collins raised the gun. "Actually, I already have." But before he could pull the trigger, another voice shouted from the hallway, "Drop the weapon!" Two state troopers rushed into the room. Emma stood behind them. She looked at me with relief. "I told them to check the sheriff's office," she said. Collins realized he was trapped. Slowly, he placed the gun on the floor. Within minutes, he was in handcuffs. Later that evening, as the police cars drove him away, the truth spread through Maple Hollow just as fast as the rumors had. The real killer had been caught. Sheriff Harper's investigation exposed the entire land corruption scheme, and my name was finally cleared. But one thing about that night still stayed with me. Small towns always look peaceful from the outside. Quiet streets, friendly neighbors, perfect little houses. But sometimes, the darkest secrets hide in the places that seem the safest. And sometimes, the person everyone trusts the most is the one lying the best. Thanks for watching.